Today we're going to show you the high tensile fence that we're working on. You can see behind me we have set up our gate posts and our fence. So what we're doing is running a high tensile fence that's going to be electrified with one top barbed wire. The main reasons we're doing this is to keep our animals in. That is a secondary barrier for our livestock. It always was a worry to me that the pigs might get out, and the neighbor runs organic crops next to us, so we didn't want to be an issue there. So it does provide a secondary fence for the animals that we have, as well as keeping our dogs and other animals, our pets and stuff in. And thirdly, it does keep out predators. There are bear, wolves, coyotes around here. Not that we've had an issue on the property, but a 40 over, we've seen some of those animals. So that's what we're working on. So we're gonna go through and show you how we have it constructed and some of the tools that you're gonna need to do this job. So first off, I can't stress enough the importance of getting a survey. You're gonna spend a fair amount of time and money on a project like this, and the last thing you wanna do is put it onto the neighbor's property and have some kind of dispute on if you're over the line, and you end up being over the line, you gotta move it, and you just wasted a ton of time and money. So we had the property surveyed, we know exactly where the line is. So to start with, we always want a really good corner. So you're best off getting this as deep as you possibly can. We had this one sunk in 4 feet. And that's going to lead us, just so happens that our gate is right here. So what we have in this high tensile setup is what they call an H brace. So we set this up to our gate post, and then we run a high tensile line from the corner to the gate post. So what this does is, with the gate, with the weight that you're going to have on there, plus the high tensile lines pulling, if you didn't have this cross piece, the whole H could just kind of tip over. So what this does to prevent that tip as it pulls on this H, and it's important that you get this orientation correctly, because if you do it the other way, it is completely opposite of what you want to do and will exacerbate the lean. So as the tension, with the weight of the gate and any of the wire that you might have, it's going to want to, it could potentially lean everything over. So what this wire does is lock into the bottom of this post, and all we did was sink a pin in the back. You can also nail it. I I know that it's never going to slide above that pin, so I just drill and put another pin in there. And then you run your high tensile line, tension that up real tight, and what that does is lock this whole thing in from being able to move. So that's really important on all of your corners, or where you're going to have a gate and another post where you have these H's, that you have to do these properly. So you can see this is going to run down the line, so you're going to have a whole nother string of wires pulling this way. So it's the same thing, that you have to start at the bottom where the tension is going to get pulled in the opposite direction. So get your orientation done properly, and then you can put a bunch of wire and a bunch of stress on here, and this H is going to hold up really well. This is reclaimed railroad pieces. So these were the railroad ties where the intersections would be. So I think they started 16 foot long, and we got them down as deep as we could, tamped them in really well. And then these boards are 2.5 inches thick. I think they're about 9.5 inches tall. These were for the railroad bridge planks. They replaced all these, so we're able to use these. So to set this up, you drill and put a pin on the inside of here. Then on the other side, where the top of this wire runs, you drill this is a 10-inch pin, so we use a drill bit. We drill this all the way through and drive this pin. Because this is dimensional lumber and we have a pin on each side, it could have the tendency to turn. So we also drilled another little pilot hole for one of these really long lag bolts and ran that in just to keep that board from twisting. Under tension, it shouldn't twist, but that's just a little added security that it won't twist on us. So there's the main construction for setting up the corner and the gates. The gate itself, we did use this style with the wire. It is more expensive to do it this way, but the reason we did that, my dog, I haven't seen exactly how she does it yet, but with a regular like cattle gate, she can, I think what she does is put her front paws through and then wiggle through. So we wanted to keep, one of the main reasons keeping the dog in, we went with this style gate, and then we went with this other style latch. So I didn't want the gate to be able to pass through. So once we set up where it hinges, we measured so this, it overlaps. All this does, you just have to hit that latch. So you push it through and now it's closed and latched. It does have an outfit in here so you are able to lock that if you want. The other thing that's important when setting a gate up like this, that you have to have something to hold the gate when you want it open, that you want it to stay open. So I did use a cedar post and this other style latch, which I only use this just because I had it. You could use the chain that they come with. That the wind will catch this and be able to swing it around more so than what you think it would. So it's really important, whether you had a post and the chain wrapped around or a heavy block or something to keep that open when you want it to stay open, that it's not flapping in the breeze, because it can mess up your hardware and cause you some problems down the line. So we're gonna close this back up, and then we're gonna show you how we have the hinges set up. All these gates should come with a screw-in style pin that acts as the hinge. I don't really like those because it doesn't allow you, when you have to do a full turn to try to level it out, because you do want, for that to swing properly, you want the gate as level as possible. With a gate that's 16 foot long like this one is, if you're pretty close and you want to try to level it out, if you got to do a whole rotation to try to get it back where you want it, that might be too much, or it doesn't allow for the fine adjustments. So this is a bolt through a hinge, which does cost you a little bit extra money, but for the time and investment that we're putting in here, it was worth. I think these are around $10 each, so yeah, another 20 bucks on top of the cost, but I think that's well worth it to make sure you get that gate exactly where you want it. So now we're going to show you some of the tools that are involved that you're going to need. So there is a little bit of an investment doing high tensile fence, you know, some things that are specific for fencing, you know, like this crimper, for example. Picked this up at Tractor Supply. I think they're 80, 85 bucks. So, you know, you got something like this that's just for your fencing. You have the spinning jenny, so you have your high tensile wire, and you have to have one of these spinning jennies to unspool the wire. Otherwise, you're just going to have a big giant mess. So some of the other stuff, you know, tensioning tool, where we showed you where we had our cross pieces for the wire. You're going to need one of those. You can use a crescent wrench too, but that other tool makes it a little bit easier to get it tight. So things we're going to have here, so we have our drill with varying size drill bits for those pins, and for the gate hardware, you're going to need some kind of level to make sure your posts are square and level, hammer, and you're going to need some kind of cutters. You can use like a heavy duty side cutter, but a small pair of bolt cutters works out really well for cutting the high tensile wire. We need our impact. Once you figure out your line and you have it nice and straight, I kind of like having the posts at even spacing. So we use something like this that resets and measures the space. Once we figure out how many feet we want, we can just roll along and use our paint, use our marking paint to mark where the posts are going to be. A chainsaw for two reasons. We want the H-brace. We'll set those posts, and then we'll measure the length of our H-brace so we have it really tight to start with. So we'll cut that with the chainsaw. You're also going to need that with some of your posts. If you hit a rock or something where you can't get the post all the way down, I kind of like having all the tops of the post about the same height, so you could go through and cut the top of the post down. You're going to need some kind of post hole digger. We did use the tractor for those, but it doesn't really auger out all the dirt that well, at least with the post hole digger that we're using. So we did need to use this to help dig out the dirt that it loosened up. And with the size of these railroad ties, we really need to make the hole quite a bit wider to give us room to tamp and to position exactly down the line where we were. So you need some kind of post hole digger. You could do the whole thing manually, but you're going to need this for sure. A shovel just to help scoop the dirt as you tamp it back in. I did use this old piece of pipe. This was some drive pipe. And then all I did was put a 90-degree elbow on the bottom. So it really, between the weight of this pipe plus the elbow, it gives a good surface to tamp. So you can almost just set this in there and let it drop. So it tamps in the dirt really well. This bar is, depends on your soil. Here we ran into quite a few rocks. So even with the post hole digger on the back of the tractor, that's not going to do a whole heck of a lot if you have big rocks in the hole. So you need to run the auger back up, or if you are using it manually, you're going to run into the rocks either way. So a bar like this, to be able to go into the hole and break out the rocks, you're poking in there and prying and knocking the rocks loose and then picking them up by hand. So something like this is pretty crucial if you have any kind of rocky soil. So those are some of the tools that you're going to need for this project. We got quite a bit to go. This is just the front line, so we are fencing in about 10 acres here, so we've got a lot of work to go. So this is going to be an ongoing project. We'll show you guys how this looks and how the progress is going throughout the rest of the summer. So if you guys like the content, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, share it out, and we'll see you guys in the next video.